Welcome to week 1. In this week, we're going to cover some of the big picture issues of organizational behavior. We're going to define it. I'm going to give you some models to help you think about what organizational behavior is. And then we're going to talk about some of the emerging or current issues that OB scholars are looking at to help improve organizational performance. Now, the first thing we want to do is we want to talk about what is organizational behavior. Well, the name itself sort of implies what it's about. It's about the way people interact in an organizational setting. Now, we know there's a lot of study on humans in terms of personality, psychology, right, sociology, and OB really incorporates a lot of these ideas, and it helps us to explain and predict how people are going to perform in organizations. Now, it's not just to know about how they're going to perform, but it's really to get the most out of people, to help them to engage the most in the organizational context, and it's to help the organization perform. So really, OB is a multifaceted, multidisciplinary discipline. It combines lots of other disciplines, and it really is to help us understand the inner workings of people when they get together and they try to accomplish something. Now, you may have experienced in your life how difficult it is to get people to work together. You know, maybe just you and one other person, maybe you and your spouse. It's hard to get along sometimes, right? Well, multiply that now with not just individuals, but groups, and then groups of groups, and then the entire organization all moving together, focused on accomplishing a common mission and goal and strategy. Well, when you look at it that way, you can see how complex the task of OB is. So OB is an important management strategy. It's important for managers to know because day in and day out, you are dealing with people. That's right. At the end of the day, if you take away all the titles, if you take away all the cubbies, all the offices, all the power corners, all the accoutrements, and all the things that are involved in an organization, what you have at the end of the day is a bunch of people trying to get along, trying to work together in common cause. And this is a very complicated thing. And so that's why OB is so important, because as your job as a manager involves dealing with people day in and day out. You're always working with people. It's people that get the work done. And so effective managers know how to get the best out of their people and know how to make the organization perform by utilizing people and helping them to get along in organizational context. So that really is one of the fundamental primary purposes of OB, is to get the most out of the people and to get the people to work and to enhance organizational performance. Now, I'm going to give you a little model here that's going to help you think about OB sort of conceptually at different levels, okay? So this is going to help you throughout the entire class here, and this is something I like to give students early on because it gives them a way to think about it, because all these ideas, individuals, groups, strategy, blah, 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 you can get confused real quick. But if you can remember this model, you then can begin to sort of hang your hat, and it'll help you to analyze where certain issues are. What am I looking at here? What kind of an issue am I looking at? So the first level that you want to think about in OB is at the individual level. This has to do with people. The individual differences, the thing that makes us different from one another, our personality, our drives. It has to do with motivation. It has to do with misbehavior. There's a lot of things that have to do in an organization with people at a very individual level. So who these people are. So think about your own organizational context. You might have, 5 direct reports, and if you think about them, what you realize is that these are all very different people. They might have a common skill set. Maybe they're all engineers, or maybe they're all salespeople, but they've all got their quirks, their personalities, their likes, their dislikes. They're all motivated differently. They all want different things. Some people are in it for the money and they just want to work and make the money. Some people are really into personal improvement, performance. They want to get ahead. They want to acknowledge. They want challenges, right? So the first level of organizational behavior is understanding people and what motivates them. What kinds of rewards are going to motivate them? What kind of incentives? How do we evaluate them, right? So this will be the topic of, I believe, next week's conversation, the individual level. The next level is the relational or the dyadic level. So it's not just one person, but it's now 2 people in relationship. And if you think about your own work, a lot of what you do is interacting one-on-one with other people. or you're trying to help two people get along, or you're trying to help two people figure out an issue or deal with an interpersonal conflict or something like that. So this dyadic interpersonal level is another level of understanding people and organizations, right? Okay, so you got the individual himself or herself, you've got two people trying to get along. Now the next level is groups, right? So now you've got two or more people is a group or a team. Now we'll talk about the difference between groups and teams, I believe in week 3, but this is an important level. And again, most work done in organizations is done at the group levels. And think about the way that most companies and businesses are organized. They're organized into divisions and departments, right? So you've got the sales department, you've got finance, you've got R&D, you've got marketing. Maybe you've got your executive group, right? Overseeing all these different groups. And then even within them, they might be subdivided further. So it depends on how big the organization is, but no matter how big or small, there's going to be groups and teams working together. And this is a bit more challenging now because now you've got the dynamics of various personalities. So let's just say you've got 8 or 10 people in a group, right? Well, now you've got 8 or 10 personalities, 8 or 10 motivations, right? And how do we get these people into skills and backgrounds and competencies and roles in the organization? How do we get all these people to work together? So that's the next challenge. The next level up, okay, so let's review: individual, interpersonal, group. The next level up is the entire organization, right? And what is an organization but a bunch of groups? So we've got all these different groups, and if you're the CEO, if you're involved in the strategic apex of that organization, your job is to get all these groups to function together well, to work together, to coordinate together, to communicate, to deal with issues, to deal with process issues. And sometimes groups, here's the interesting OB things, is sometimes groups, and you may not know this, but they get territorial and they get possessive and they vie for scarce resources, right? There's only so much budget to go around, and so groups want their piece of the pie. And so dealing with the group level is important. So there's different ways to motivate groups, incentivize groups, to get them to work together. And then finally there is the interactive level, right? This is where the organization interacts with other organizations. And this is kind of a very high strategic level. Typically, this is the world of CEOs and folks at the very top of the strategic apex. They are interested in how their organization communicates and works together with other organizations. So perhaps it's a franchise, perhaps it's say you're a business, you're a small business, and you want to know how to relate to the other businesses or small businesses or big businesses in your community or in your industry, right? So that's the highest level. So most of what we're going to be dealing with in this class in OB has to do with this, the individual, interactive, group, and organizational level, right? We won't be dealing as much with the strategic level. But anyhow, that is a good way to think about what's going on in an organization. So as a manager, and you're trying to troubleshoot something, and you're asking yourself, well, where is this issue? Is it an interpersonal issue? Is it a personal issue? Is it a group level? Is it an organizational process, strategic interaction kind of an issue? All right? So I hope that helps, and we'll be revisiting that throughout the class as well. So maybe write that down and think about that, and think about your own experience in terms of how that works. The next thing we want to talk about in terms of this topic is some of the larger global issues that are emerging within organizations today. Now, it's no secret that our culture has become a very diverse, very complex sort of a place. We don't deal with homogeneous groups of people. We deal with lots of different people from lots of different backgrounds. Now, we're not necessarily just talking about some of these individual differences like personality that we talked about previously, but we're talking about larger cultural issues that impact an organization. So you may have, for example, a large Hispanic constituency, or you may have a large African American constituency, or you may have a large Asian American constituency or employee group, right, within your organization. So if you're the manager, you need to be able to understand how to work together and effectively with different groups of people. Then of course you've got the gender issue, right? You've got male and female, and this is a hot button issue in our culture today. Women in the workplace, women in leadership. How do we work together as men and women? Do men and women lead differently, right? So this is more of a leadership issue, but you begin to see the complexity here real quick. And then you've got another whole issue, which is the generational differences that are present in an organization. A lot of CEOs and people who are at the top of the strategic apex these days are your boomers, right? But now the Gen Xers are moving up to management, and you've got the millennials on their way up, and now, lo and behold, you've got this whole Gen Z, right? Gen Z are the young kids. They're the kids that are in college, just graduating from college, and they're entering the workforce. And so sociologists have identified sort of these generational distinctions amongst all these generations, right? The boomers are more of the classic, they work hard, they're driven by some of the classic things, the finance and the security and the prestige. And the Xers and the millennials are different, right? They're more cause-driven. And then the Gen Z, man, they just want to change the world, right? They want to do something that makes a difference in the world. So you've got all these different things. And again, we know these are generalizations. They might even be stereotypes to a certain degree. You might be a boomer that's totally cause-driven, or you may be a Gen Z that just wants to make money, So again, there's all these nuances and distinctions, but generally speaking, these differences have been noted within generations. So if you're a manager and you're onboarding a lot of Gen Z or a lot of millennials, and you're approaching it as if you got a bunch of Xers and boomers, your approach is not going to necessarily work. So the younger people want different kinds of things out of their work experience. The millennials want to be empowered more. They want to have responsibility. They want to have relationships, right? They want to be mentored, all these sorts of things. So as you're thinking about organizational behavior and the different people that are working for you and with you, you need to be thinking about what some of these generational differences bring to the table and what sort of challenges and problems they present to you. Now, another big issue that is going on in the world of organizations today, and sadly, this is something that's been going on for a while now, but it has to do with ethics. Ethics, mismanagement, fraud, all these things that plague organizations. And again, if you've been watching the news for even the last 10, 15, 30 years, depends how long you've been alive, but you've probably seen a lot of this stuff. And we see it, in civil governments, we see it in business, we see it in federal government, state governments. It's just rampant. And again, let's face it, as Christians, we believe we have a fallen nature. And we bring this fallen nature with us into the workplace. And so when there's a lack of accountability, when there's a lack of systems in place for accountability, things can go wrong. Things can go terribly wrong. And so ethics is another issue that is becoming more embedded into the OB field now. There's actually, ethics officers, the CEO now could mean the chief executive officer or the chief ethics officer, right? And there's ethics offices, and there's a whole new paradigm now for how corporations deal with and manage ethical issues, how they make sure that they are accountable, that they are doing all they can in order to ensure that their people and their organizations act ethically. So that's so these are kind of some of the substreams that are running across OB. So we kind of look at it up front and say, these are going to impact some things now, right? When you start talking about groups, you're going to be talking about, the diversity in the groups. When you're talking about strategy, you're going to be talking about the ethics of the strategy. Are we doing something that is ethical or unethical? What is our corporate social responsibility like? So these are important to know as you begin to study OB. And again, these probably come up in several of your management courses. This may not be new information to you, but I just want to let you know that these issues impact the study of organizational behavior. And I think you'll see them as we run across. And again, I think they impact your own business, your own practice as a manager, right? And I'm assuming that some of you are already in management, or you're emerging managers, or you're on the cusp of management, or maybe you've been managing for a while now, and you're going back to school just to kind of sharpen your chops and whatnot. So you probably experienced a lot of these things. And again, for those of you who are experienced in management, a lot of what you're going to see in this class are going to be, you're going to have a lot of aha moments. You're going to say, well, yeah, I knew that. I've seen that in practice, but I could never really put my finger on it. I could never really describe it or think about it objectively. So hopefully what this class does for you, one of the things it does for you, is it helps you kind of step back and look a little more objectively at some of the things you've been swimming in for all these years, but have never had a way to kind of think about or deal with very objectively or systematically. It's a wonderful thing about organizational behavior. Well, that's about it for this topic. Again, I just wanted to make a beachhead into the overall field of organizational behavior, some of the current issues. Now, next week, we're going to look at some more specific issues on that individual level, right? We're going to look at individual behavior in terms of motivation, individual differences, rewards, incentivizing, and such like that. Now, your textbook and the materials provided for you through our website, and Cengage website, some of our discussions and activities, all the things we've got going on are going to give you a lot more insight into these, okay? So please don't take these short upfront videos as the be-all, end-all of what you need to know. I'm just scratching the surface. I'm just kind of giving you the big picture, maybe helping you think about some things, give you some insight and examples. And you really, though, need to dig deep into your text and review the materials, review the additional videos that are provided for you. Those are going to help you a lot get into some of the specifics. Okay, so I can't lecture through every topic covered in our book or in an OB class in great specificity. My job here really is to kind of give you the big picture and help you think about things, maybe add some Christian biblical perspectives and worldview now and again that help you pull some things together. So I'm counting on you guys to do your homework and to really dig deep into the topic through the textbooks. All right, so blessings to you. Great to have you this week. Look forward to seeing you all online soon. Take care.